Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online reading retreat labs. So in the last 2 days, we are reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We just started it, and we are just in the introduction page. Yesterday, we have covered till page number 10 of the canto number 1. As I have mentioned, if you do not have the hard copy, you can always contact me how to get this hard copy. Otherwise, you can for the time being, you can also read it from the online, but I will always prefer to read hard copies, right? So if just a minute, I'll just share the screen from where exactly we're going to start it. So if you can see, this is your database. In that, you can see Srimad Bhagavatam, all the 12 cantos are there. We are just started with the canto number 1. So from the canto number 1, we are reading the introduction. So quickly, I will search that particular paragraph, which we are going to start today from this incident source. Yeah. So we have read it till yesterday. We are just Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, a lot of activities we have seen yesterday. And today we are going to start from this paragraph. So let's read it from it now. This incident shows clearly that the Lord was not a so-called timid Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord, and for the right cause, he can take any step suitable for the purpose. Arjuna, here also you are giving an example. Prabhupada is given an example of Arjuna. Arjuna was also a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord Krishna, and he fought valiantly for the satisfaction of the Lord. Similarly, Bajrangaji or Hanuman was also a devotee of Lord Rama, and he gave lessons to non-devotee party of Ravana. The principles of Vaishnavism are to satisfy the Lord by all means. A Vaishnava is by nature a non-violent, peaceful living being, and he has all the good qualities of God. But when the non-devotee blasphemes the Lord or is a devotee, the Vaishnava never tolerates such impudency. Okay. So we have seen in like violence, non-violence is not so good. It's not like that. Okay. So violence, whenever it is needed, is really to be done. So we have heard a lot of times Ahinsa Paraman Dharma, but actually that is not 100% true. Whenever it is needed, definitely violence it is required if it is needed. So the next paragraph we will go for. After this incident, the Lord began to preach and propagate his Bhagavad Dharma or Sankirtana movement more vigorously, and whatever stood against this propagation of the Yoga Dharma or duty of the age was properly punished by various types of chastisement. Two Brahmana gentlemen named Chapala and Gopala, who also happened to be maternal uncles of the Lord, were inflicted with leprosy by way of chastisement, and later, when they were repentant, they were accepted by the Lord. In the course of his preaching work, he used to send daily all his followers, including Srila Nityanand Mahaprabhu and Thakura Haridas, to thieves of his party from door to door preach the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. All of Navadvip was surcharged with his Sankirtana movement, and his headquarters were situated at the house of Srivasa Thakur and Sri Advait Prabhu, two of his chief householder disciples. These two learned heads of the Brahmana community were the most ardent supporters of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Sri Advait Prabhu was the chief cause for the advent of the Lord. When Advait Prabhu saw that the total human society was full of materialistic activities and devoid of devotional service, which alone would save mankind from the threefold miseries of material existence, he, out of his causeless compassion for the age-worn human society, prayed fervently for the incarnation of the Lord and continually worship the Lord with water of the Ganges and leaves of the holy Tulsi tree. As far as the preaching work in the Sankirtan movement was concerned, everyone was expected to do his daily share according to the order of the Lord. So this is an application point here. We have to understand that we have to do this. Everyone except to do his whatever you are learning, you have to share this according to the order of the Lord. Now we will move to the next paragraph. Once Nityanand Prabhu and Srila Haridas Thakur were walking down a main road, and on the way they saw a roaring crowd assembled. Upon inquiring from passers-by, they understood that two brothers named Jagai and Madhai were creating a public disturbance in a drunken state. They also heard that these two brothers were born in a respectable Brahmana family, but because of low association, they had turned into debauchees of the worst type. They were not only drunkards, but also meat eaters, women hunters, dacoits, and sinners of all description. Srila Nityanand Prabhu heard all of these stories and decided that these two fallen souls must be the first to be delivered. If they were delivered from their sinful life, then the good name of Lord Chaitanya would be even still more glorified. Thinking in this way, Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas pushed their way through the crowd and asked the two brothers to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. The drunken brothers became enraged upon this request and attacked Nityanand Prabhu with filthy language. Both brothers chased them a considerable distance. In the evening, the report of the preaching work was submitted to the Lord, and he was glad to learn that Nityanand and Haridas had attempted to deliver such a stupid pair of fellows. The next day, Nityanand Prabhu went to see the brothers. As soon as he approached them, one of them threw a piece of earthen pot at him. This struck him on the forehead, and immediately blood began to flow. But Nityanand Prabhu was so kind that instead of protesting this heinous act, he said, "It doesn't matter that you have thrown this stone at me. I still request you to chant the holy name of the Lord Hari." So you can see how Nityanand Prabhu is so merciful. So he didn't react immediately. So next paragraph, one of the brothers, Jagai, was astonished to see this behavior of Nityanand Prabhu, and he at once fell down at his feet and asked him to pardon his sinful brother. So how the transformation happens, we can see in case of Jagai here. When Madhai again attempted to hurt Nityanand Prabhu, Jagai stopped him and implored him to fall down at his feet. In the meantime, the news of Nityanand's injury reached the Lord, who at once hurried to the spot in a fiery and angry mood. The Lord immediately invoked his Sudarshan Chakra, the Lord's ultimate weapon, shaped like a will to kill the sinners. But Nityanand Prabhu reminded him of his mission. The mission of the Lord was to deliver hopelessly fallen souls of Kali Yuga, and the brothers Jagai and Madhai were typical examples of these fallen souls. 90% of the population of this age resembles these brothers. This is very true. We can relate to it in the current situation as well. Despite high birth and mundane respectability, according to the verdict of the revealed scriptures, the total population of the world in this age will be of the lowest Sudra quality or even lower. It should be noted that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never acknowledged the stereotyped caste system by birthright. Rather, he strictly followed the verdict of the Shastras in the matter of one's Swarupa or real identity. When the Lord was invoking his Sudarshan Chakra and Srila Nityanand Prabhu was imploring him to forgive, both the brothers fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and begged his pardon for their gross behavior. The Lord was also asked by Nityanand Prabhu to accept these repenting souls, and the Lord agreed to accept them on one condition, that they henceforward completely give up all their sinful activities and habits of debauchery. Both the brothers agreed and promised to give up to give up all their sinful habits, and the kind Lord accepted them and didn't again refer to their past misdeeds. So this is the specific kindness of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, no one can say that he is free from sin. It is impossible for anyone to say this. But Lord Chaitanya accepts all kind of sinful persons on the one condition that they promise not to indulge in sinful habits after being spiritually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. There are a number of instructive points to be observed in this incident of the two brothers. In this Kali Yuga, practically all people are of the quality of Jagai and Madhai. If they want to be relieved from the reactions of their misdeeds, they must take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and after spiritual initiation, thus refrain from those things which are prohibited in the Shastras. The prohibitory rules are dealt with in the Lord's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. During his householder life, the Lord didn't display many of the miracles which are generally expected from such personalities. But he did once perform a wonderful miracle in the house of Srinivas Thakur while Sankirtan was in the full swing. He asked the devotees what they wanted to eat, and when he was informed that they wanted to eat mangoes, he asked for a seed of mango, although this fruit was out of season. When the seed was brought to him, he sowed it in the yard of Srinivas, and at once a creeper began to grow out of the seed. Within no time, this creeper became a full-grown mango tree, heavy with more ripened fruits than the devotees could eat. The tree remained in Srinivas's yard, and from then on, the devotees used to take as many mangoes from the tree as they wanted. The Lord had a very high estimation of the affections of the damsels of Brajbhumi, Vrindavan, or Krishna, and in appreciation of their unalloyed service to the Lord, once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted the holy names of the gopis, cowherd girls, instead of the names of the Lord. At this time, some of his students who were also disciples came to see him, and when they saw that the Lord was chanting the names of the gopis, they were astonished. Out of sheer foolishness, they asked the Lord why he was chanting the names of the gopis and advised him to chant the name of Krishna. The Lord, who was in ecstasy, was thus disturbed by these foolish students. He chastised them and chased them away. The students were almost the same as the Lord, and thus they wrongly thought of the Lord as one of their peers. They held a meeting and resolved that they would attack the Lord if he dared to punish them again in such a manner. This incident provoked some malicious talks about the Lord on the part of the general public. When the Lord became aware of this, he began to consider the various types of men found in the society. He noted that, especially the students, professors, pretty workers, yogis, non-devotees, and different types of atheists were all opposed to the devotional service of the Lord. My mission is to deliver all the fallen souls of this age, he thought. But if they commit offenses against me, thinking me to be an ordinary man, they will not benefit. If they are to begin their life with spiritual realization, they must some way or another offer obeisance unto me. Thus, the Lord decided to accept the renounced order of life, sannyasa, because people in general were inclined to offer respects to a sannyasi. So this is the reason why actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, or the renounced order of life. We can see that. We'll go to the next paragraph. 500 years ago, the condition of society was not as degraded as it is today. At that time, people would show respect to a sannyasi, and the sannyasi was rigid in following the rules and regulations of the renounced order of life. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not very much in favor of the renounced order of life in this age of Kali, but that was only for the reason that very few sannyasis in this age are able to observe the rules and regulations of sannyasa life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to accept the order and become an ideal sannyasi. so that the general population would show him respect. One is duty bound to show respect to a sannyasi. For a sannyasi is considered to be the master of all varnas and ashramas. While he was contemplating accepting the sannyasa order, it so happened that Kesava Bharti, a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school and resident of Katwa in Bengal now, visited Navadvip and was invited to dine with the Lord. When Kesava Bharti came to his house, the Lord asked him to award him the sannyas order of life. This was a matter of formality. The sannyas order is to be accepted from another sannyasi. Although the Lord was independent in all respects, still, to keep the formalities of the Shastras, he accepted the sannyas order from Kesava Bharti, although Kesava Bharti was not in the Vaishnav Sampradaya school. After consulting with Kesava Bharti, the Lord left Navadvip for Katwa to formally accept the sannyas order of life. He was accompanied by Srila Nityanand Prabhu, Chandrasekhar Acharya, and Mukunda Datta. These three assisted him in the details of the ceremony. The incident of the Lord's accepting the sannyas order is very elaborately described in the Chaitanya-Bhāgavatam by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. Thus, at the end of his 24th year, the Lord accepted the sannyas order of life in the month of Magha, that is around winter season. So after accepting this order, he became a full-fledged preacher of the Bhagavata Dharma. Although he was doing the same preaching work in his householder life, when he experienced some obstacles to his preaching, he sacrificed even the comfort of his home life for the sake of the fallen souls. In his householder life, his chief assistants were Srila Advaita Prabhu and Srila Srivas Thakur. But after he accepted the sannyas order, his chief assistants became Srila Nityanand Prabhu, who was deputed to preach specifically in Bengal, that is now at Kolkata, West Bengal, and the six Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, headed by Srila Rupa and Sanatana, who were deputed to go to Vrindavan to excavate the present places of pilgrimage. The present city of Vrindavan and the importance of the Brajbhumi were disclosed by the will of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, after accepting the sannyas order, at once wanted to start for Vrindavan. For 3 continuous days, he traveled in the Radha Des, places where the Ganges doesn't flow. He was in full ecstasy over the idea of going to Vrindavan. However, Srila Nityanand diverted his path and brought him instead to the house of Advaita Prabhu in Santipura. The Lord stayed at Sri Advaita Prabhu's house for a few days, and knowing well that the Lord was leaving his hearth and home for good, Sri Advaita Prabhu sent his men to Navadvip to bring Mother Sachi to have a last meeting with her son. Some unscrupulous people say that Lord Chaitanya met his wife also after taking sannyas and offered her his wooden sleeper for worship, but the authentic sources give no information about such a meeting. His mother met him at the house of Advaita Prabhu, and when she saw her son in sannyasa dress, she lamented. By way of compromise, she requested her son to make his headquarters in Puri so that she would easily be able to get information about him. The Lord granted this last desire of his beloved mother. After this incident, the Lord started to for Puri, leaving all the residents of Navadvip in an ocean of lamentation over his separation. The Lord visited many important places on the way to Puri. He visited the temple of Gopinathji, who had stolen condensed milk for his devotees, Srila Madhavendra Puri. Since then, deity Gopinathji is well known as Kshirachora Gopinath. So it is in the district of Balashore in Odisha. If you get a chance, definitely you should visit it. The Lord released this story with great pleasure. The propensity of stealing is there even in the absolute consciousness. But because this propensity is exhibited by the absolute, it does it loses its perverted nature and thus becomes worshipable even by Lord Chaitanya on the basis of the absolute consideration that the Lord and his stealing propensity are one and identical. This interesting story of Gopinath ji is vividly explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. After visiting the temple of Khirachura Gopinath of Remuna at Baleshwar in Odisha, the Lord proceeded towards Puri and on the way visited the temple of Sakshi Gopal, who appeared as a witness in the matter of two Brahmana devotees' family quarrel. The Lord heard the story of Sakshi Gopal with great pleasure because he wanted to impress upon the atheist that the worshipable deities in the temples approved by the great acharyas are not idols, is alleged by men with a poor fund of knowledge. The deity in the temple is the archetypal incarnation of the personality of Godhead, and thus the deity is identical with the Lord in all respects. In response to the proportion of the devotee's affection for him, in the story of Sakshi Gopal, in which there was a family misunderstanding by two devotees of the Lord, in order to mitigate the turmoil as well as to show specific favor to his servitors, traveled from Vrindavan to Vidyanagar, a village in Odisha. So I'm fortunate to be part of that state in India, Odisha. A lot of pastimes have been happened there. That is all the locations, all the geographical location you can see, like your Remuna and Baleswar, Sakshi Gopal. So it all belongs to the state of Odisha. So people who do not know Odisha definitely should visit this holy state of in India, in the eastern part of India. Definitely should visit there. A village in Odisha in the form of his Arka incarnation. From there, the deity was brought to Cuttack, and thus the temple of Sakshi Gopal is even today visited by thousands of pilgrims on the way to Jagannath Puri. The Lord stayed overnight there and began to proceed toward Puri. And the way his sannyasa rod was broken by Nityanand Prabhu, the Lord became apparently angry with him about this and went alone to Puri, leaving his companions behind. At Puri, when he entered the temple of Jagannath, he became at once saturated with the transcendental ecstasy and fell down on the floor of the temple unconscious. The custodians of the temple could not understand the transcendental feats of the Lord, but there was a great learned Pandita named Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who was present, and he could understand the Lord's losing his consciousness upon entering the Jagannath temple was not an ordinary thing. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the chief appointed Pandita in the court of the king of Odisha, Maharaj Prataprudra. So Maharaj Prataprudra was the king at that time in Odisha, was attracted by the youthful luster of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and could understand that such a transcendental trance was only really exhibited and only then by the topmost devotees who are already on the transcendental plane in complete forgetfulness of material existence. Only a liberated soul could show such a transcendental feat, and the Bhattacharya, who was vastly learned, could understand this in the light of the transcendental literature with which he was familiar. He therefore asked the custodians of the temple not to disturb the unknown sannyasi. He asked them to take the Lord to his home so he could be further observed in his unconscious state. The Lord was at once carried to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who at that time had sufficient power of authority due to his being the Sabha Pandita, or the state dean of faculty in Sanskrit literatures. The learned Pandita wanted to scrutinizingly test the transcendental fits of Lord Chaitanya, because Often unscrupulous devotees imitate physical feats in order to flaunt transcendental achievements just to attract innocent people and take advantage of them. A learned scholar like the Bhattacharya can defeat such impostors, and when he finds them out, he at once rejects them. In the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhattacharya tested all the symptoms in the light of the Shastras. He tested as a scientist, not as a foolish sentimentalist. He observed the movement of the stomach, the beating of the heart, and the breathing of the nostrils. He also felt the pulse of the Lord and saw that all his bodily activities were in complete suspension. When he put a small cotton swab before the nostrils, he found that there was a slight breathing as the fine fibers of cotton moved slightly. Thus, he came to know that the Lord's unconscious trance was genuine, and he began to treat him in the prescribed fashion. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could only be treated in a special way. He would respond only to the resounding of the holy names of the Lord by his devotees. This special treatment was unknown to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because the Lord was still unknown to him. When the Bhattacharya saw him for the first time in the temple, he simply took him to be one of many pilgrims. In the meantime, the companions of the Lord who reached the temple a little after him heard of the Lord's transcendental feats and of his being carried away by the Bhattacharya. The pilgrims at the temple were still gossiping around the incident, but by chance, one of these pilgrims had met Gopinath Acharya, who was known to Gadadhar Pandit, and from him it was learned that the Lord was lying in an unconscious state at the residence of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who happened to be the brother-in-law of Gopinath Acharya. All the members of the party were introduced by Gadadhar Pandit to Gopinath Acharya, who took them all to the house of Bhattacharya, where the Lord was lying unconscious in a spiritual trance. All the members then chanted loudly the holy name of the Lord, Hari, as usual, and the Lord regained his consciousness. After this, Bhattacharya received all the members of the party, including Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and asked them to become his guests of honor. The party, including the Lord, went for a bath in the sea, and the Bhattacharya arranged for their residence and meals at the house of Kasi Mishra. Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law, also assisted. There were some friendly talks about the Lord's divinity between the two brothers-in-law. And in this argument, Gopinath Acharya, who knew the Lord before, now tried to establish the Lord as the personality of Godhead. And the Bhattacharya tried to establish him as one of the great devotees. Both of them argued from the angle of vision of authentic Shastras and not on the strength of the sentimental vox populi. The incarnations of God are determined by authentic Shastras and not by popular votes of foolish fanatics. Because Lord Chaitanya was an incarnation of God, in fact, foolish fanatics have proclaimed so many so-called incarnations of Lord God in this age without referring to authentic scriptures. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or Gopinath Acharya didn't indulge in such foolish sentimentalism. On the contrary, both of them tried to establish or reject his divinity on the strength of authentic Shastras. Later, it was disclosed that Bhattacharya also came from the Navadvip area, and it was understood from him that Nilamar Chakravarti, the maternal grandfather of Lord Chaitanya, happened to be a class fellow of the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In that sense, the young sannyasi Lord Chaitanya evoked paternal affection from Bhattacharya. Bhattacharya was the professor of many sannyasis in the order of the Sankaracharya Sampradaya, and he himself also belonged to that cult. As such, the Bhattacharya desired that the young sannyasi Lord Chaitanya also hear from him about the teachings of Vedanta. Those who are followers of the Sankara cult are generally known as Vedantists. This doesn't, however, mean that Vedanta is a monopoly study of the Sankara Sampradaya. Vedanta is studied by all the bona fide Sampradayas, but they have their own interpretations. But those in the Sampradaya are generally to be ignorant of the knowledge of the Vedantist Vaishnavas. For this reason, the Bhakti Vedanta title was first offered to the author by the Vaishnavas. The Lord agreed to take lessons from Bhattacharya on the Vedanta, and then they sat together in the temple of Lord Jagannath. The Bhattacharya went on speaking continually for 7 days, and the Lord heard him with all attention and didn't interrupt. The Lord's silence raised some doubts in Bhattacharya's heart, and he asked the Lord how it was that he didn't ask anything or comment on his explanation of Vedanta. The Lord posed himself before the Bhattacharya as a foolish student and pretended that he heard the Vedanta from him because the Bhattacharya felt that this was a duty of a sannyasi. But the Lord didn't agree with his lectures. By this, the Lord indicated that the so-called Vedantists among the Sankara Sampradaya or any other Sampradaya who do not follow the instruction of Srila Vyasadeva are mechanical students of the Vedanta. They are not fully aware of that great knowledge. The explanation of the Vedanta Sutra is given by the author himself in the text of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. One who has no knowledge of the Bhagavatam will hardly be able to know what the Vedanta says. So today we will stop here, and tomorrow we will start from the next paragraph. That is your the Bhattacharya being a very learned man. So we'll start from there and we will carry on our reading. So if you see the entire introduction itself, it is around, you can see in the hard copy, 37 pages. And today we have completed till page number 18, almost half of the page. So if you are having hard copy, you can refer and bookmark that. So we will start from tomorrow. That is the Bhattacharya being a vastly learned man. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna.